Good morning, and welcome to the Thought Leaders Business Lab live edition. We're always here at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. Has anyone ever said to you, just be yourself, be authentic? That's something that I see a lot of coaches and presenting coaches saying to the people that they're coaching, and I often see people's eyes glaze over. Like, what does that actually mean? We're not just saying be authentic doesn't actually mean anything. So that's what we're going to be chatting about today with our featured guest expert, Janelle Johnston. But before we bring her on, I'm Samantha Riley, your host of the Thought Leaders Business Lab. Spit it out. I'm the creator of Black Diamond, which is the advanced program for thought leaders and experts who want to double their income, double their freedom, and double their impact. Also creator of Six Figure Game Plan and founder of Global Thought Leaders Network. Let's see if we've got Janelle with us. Let's add her in. We've had some trouble weeks, so cross fingers that this all goes smoothly, and looks like it's going to this morning. Welcome, Janelle. How you going? Oh my goodness, that went like clockwork. Yay!
I know. I was all ready to go.
You're a legend. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm very excited. I love that you've got your coffee. I've been on no caffeine since the beginning of the year. And it's funny because just this morning I thought, do I have a coffee? And then thought, yeah, probably not a smart move.
Well, I've been off alcohol for nearly 6 months.
Nice work.
So, I need the coffee.
Yeah, I've been off alcohol too. That's probably why I'm going loopy. No caffeine, no alcohol. What am I thinking?
So give you a drink and you'll be bouncing off the wall.
Well, actually, when I did my podcast launch on Sunday night, I did that by live stream here, my online launch. I actually did have a glass of wine with me, and I took one sip and seriously went straight to my head. I thought, oh dear, I don't think we'll be drinking that. But, you know, as the leaders we are, we need to show up in the best way possible, right? And I guess that's where we're both at. Absolutely. Awesome. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm so excited to dive in.
I know. Well, I saw your authenticity post that you talked about, and I love that. And I love speaking about it. As you know, I'm a speaker coach for those that don't know. And it's really interesting watching people show up when they speak, and often they show up with a mask on. And so that's what I really want to talk about, that mask that we wear, or we can wear every single day, where it shows up when we're feeling uncomfortable, and that mask it's protecting ourselves from the world. And when we can embrace vulnerability and be able to drop that mask, it's so freeing, and people notice. They can see the real you, and people are wanting realness. And in business, that's what they're seeking. You know, I love watching you, Sam, because when you're talking, you can tell that that's you. It's not like a version of you. It's like, there's Sam, there she is.
Yeah, well, that's right, because we've met each other, so we know what each other's like in real life, and that's part of it. I'm sure that we've both met someone that looks like a different version on stage, and they get off and you go to speak to them and it's like they're a completely different person, and straight away it's I don't know, there's this disconnect, and you tend to lose the trust a little.
And there's a disconnect within yourself, because you know when you're really showing up. And I think as a speaker, when you're really connecting with your ideal audience, with your clients, you feel it. You feel when you're showing up, and not everyone's going to love you. You know, that's the thing. And I think for me, that was something that I had to learn, Sam, because I love being liked. I still do.
Don't we all?
I know. And I think that I've come to this point where it's like, and I think sometimes people go from one extreme to the other. Sometimes people will say, I don't care what anyone thinks. Or they say, I care what everyone thinks. And I think there's this happy medium in regards to feedback of being able to say, look, we're all different. Some people are lovers, some people won't. And I have this saying that I say, if they don't love me, I send them away with love. You know,
Yes.
they're not,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not for them and maybe they're not for me, and I send them away with love. But not everyone's going to love you, and that's okay.
Absolutely. I love it. And I love that we're going to delve into this authenticity, and you've already brought, you know, a part of it up, the vulnerability, because I think that some people think that being authentic is just showing up how we are. So when I wake up in the morning and I've got my hair that's, you know, at this crazy angle and I've got no makeup on and I'm in my pajamas, I think that some people think that that's being authentic. And if that's your brand and that's the way you want to show up, that's fine. But I would not put live on my face, you know, when I've just woken up. That's not what being authentic means. It doesn't mean showing up at every single second. So I'm really looking to diving into what the meaning of it is for you. But before we do, why don't you share a little bit about what you do and the kinds of people that you work with?
Well, what I do is, so I'm a speaker coach. So I work with business owners, particularly coaches, consultants, network marketers, social workers, people that really want to take their speaking from one-to-one, or their coaching from one-to-one to one-to-many. And I love working with business owners. So people that are out there growing their business and using their mouth or their speech as a marketing tool for their business. And that can, as you know, Sam, that can work for you or it can work against you. So it's really about understanding what your brand is about and representing it in the way that is authentic to you. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot. And I love, Sam, that you brought that up. It's not like you going to, maybe it is if it's your brand, but it's not as though you're waking up for bed, you know, with your moccos on and your PJs and you go, hello, everyone, I'm authentic. You know, sometimes that's not even authentic in itself. It can be contrived. So it's really about.
Good point.
It's about, so it's really about really showing who you are. And I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Awesome. All right. So you've mentioned already that showing up authentically is being vulnerable. And being vulnerable is a super scary place to be, right? Because when that wall does go up, that's not only are we not showing our full self, but it means that other people are not in. It's like, you know, I described it in my book as actually having a brick wall there, and the energy can't flow between you and your audience. What does vulnerability mean to you? Is it sharing absolutely everything? Like, what's the filter there?
Yeah. Vulnerability for me is, so I see people with a mask on. So when the mask is on, and that mask looks different for everybody. Yep. So my mask, Sam, for years, and it still shows up when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm really uncomfortable and I notice it. Yes. My mask is, I play the joker. So I have this humor. When I feel uncomfortable, the humor mask comes on, or the overly niceness comes on. That's my mask of protection. Yes. Other people's mask might be that they don't even smile. It's like that. I call it the grrr. It's like, don't mess with me. It's like this barrier of warrior comes up, and you might see them walk in the room and they stand up and they're not even smiling at people, and they can seem very aggressive, or that they've got this barrier, this wall of protection. And so it shows up for different people. So vulnerability, I think, is being able to be able to get that mask down, and sometimes you don't know what that mask is. Yes. So it's really important to surround yourself with people and coaches and professionals, and get yourself into rooms where you will grow and understand yourself even better. Because sometimes we've dealt with it, we've had this mask on for so many years that we don't even know that it's there. So we need people around us sometimes, and coaches, to say, hey, like, I can see that there's something behind that, you're protecting yourself here, and to get that awareness. So, and you'll feel it. That vulnerability is when you just go, it can be scary, but you open yourself up. You might get emotional. You might get scared. It depends on the person that you are and also how you're being vulnerable in that moment. Sometimes I've been vulnerable and I've been, I remember the first time, Sam, where I was speaking and I had about 100 people in the audience and I was serving a particular person in the room. And to serve them effectively, I felt like I needed to share my story of domestic violence that I went through when I was 17. Now, I'd never shared that story ever before in my life, but I chose to share it to serve that beautiful human being in the room. And that was it was scary for me. So I could feel my body. I could feel how scared I was. I could feel that the emotion was coming up. And it happened to be on film as well. So there is a clip that I've got that's out there, and I can see my own emotion. I can see me even right now talking about it. I can feel, this tension coming up because it's something that's so vulnerable that I've never, at that time, never spoken about in that scenario. So for me, it was emotion, it was scary, but it was real. And I shared that for the purpose of that beautiful human being in the room. So vulnerability is letting those walls down. And as I said, sometimes you don't know what that mask is that you're wearing until someone makes you aware of that.
What about times where we do need to show up and maybe we're feeling a little bit under the weather? Maybe one of our kids has been sick and we've been up all night and we're exhausted and we really don't want to be there, but we do have to show up because there's times to retreat and go, today is not my best day, and there's times where you have to show up. You don't have a choice. What's the difference between putting on a mask at that time just to actually get yourself up and wearing it all the time?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sam. I see the way that I see that, and as you know, I do a lot what you do. We show up and we're on camera and we're coaching people. For me, the perception that I see or the story that I create in my mind around that is that I'm tapping into what's already there for me at that moment. So there's no mask that I'm putting on. What I am doing, however, is tapping into that strength for my client or for the people that are watching me there and then, because it's not about me. It's so not about me. So when I'm showing up, people don't want to know I didn't get much sleep or that I've got, I don't know, whatever, I've got a headache. People don't want to know that. When I'm serving with everything that I've got. And so there's always, like, for me, even sharing that story in regards to the domestic violence, it's like, for what purpose am I sharing this? Is it for sympathy? Is it for what purpose would I tell someone I've got a headache, right? So if my intention was, look, I'm going to share this so that I can teach people, hey, you can show up in an instant, then I would share something like that. But for me, it's always, what is my intention? What is my purpose for sharing this? And it's always got to be about my clients and my audience. It's about how am I serving them? And if it's not going to serve them, if it's serving me, friggin' I'll go and tell my husband later, That's my thought.
That is so perfect. So it's not about us at any time. And I think that a lot of people get caught up in, and especially there's a certain group of online marketers that like to share their sob story to make it all about them, but we don't share stories to serve us. We share them to serve our audience. So I think that's a great distinction there. Really, really good. So for us to be able to create an authentic connection with our audience, what are some of the things that we can do right up? Some of the things that we can do right up front to start to create that connection?
The first thing, so if it depends on the scenario, so if you were going to speak to a live audience, I do say to people, if you get the opportunity to go out and mingle with those people and get to know them, or even have discussions on the phone before you meet them. When I did one of my events my 2 events recently in Brisbane and Melbourne, I had 250 people booked in for Melbourne, and I rang, I know this is crazy, some people will say it's crazy, but I rang 200 of those people. I didn't get to all of them, but it was so interesting having those conversations around what is it they're expecting, what is it they're wanting to learn, and I really got to understand those beautiful individuals in the room by having those conversations. The other thing I think is really important is to be completely present for those people. So often people get up on a stage and it's all about freaking them. You know, they've got this agenda of, okay, this is what I'm going to be talking about. That's why people are so often focused on their notes, because that's their security. And it's like, I've got to make sure I say all of this stuff. And while they're focusing on their notes or their PowerPoint or whatever it is that they're concerned about for themselves, they're focusing on themselves without focusing on their audience and serving them. So I often say to people when they're running workshops, do not get too attached to your content. Like when you get so attached to your content, like you definitely have clear objectives of what you want to achieve and what you want to nail for your clients and for your audience, but also be open to the learnings that you can get and the flexibility that you can have in the room, so that you can even have more accelerated learnings, because your audience knows a lot of stuff, and they can teach you something, and they can teach your audience a lot as well. So being able to be completely present, and what does that mean? You know, we talk about being present a lot. What does it mean? And it really means, you know, when you stand up in front of people, when you're not completely present, you know by the things that you're saying in your head, and you know by the tension in your body.
Yes.
So when you can let that tension go and feel like really, and I teach people how to do this, when you can feel your room, that you know that that person right in the back row is feeling uncomfortable, you know, because you have seen them and you feel them, and you know that because you are out there, you're not here, you're out there. And that's a really beautiful place to be, and you will notice it, and your audience will notice it straight away. I think we all know when we've seen speakers or trainers, we know when they're either there within themselves or they're actually there with you.
Yes.
And when they're there with you, it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, totally. And I'm sure we've all been in that position where all of a sudden you're in your head, something's happened in the room, and you go into your head, and it's like a little spiral that you go down for a bit until you breathe and go, okay, stop, let's reset, recalibrate, and get going again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, when often people will say, what about if I get challenged? And I go, bring it on. Like, isn't that awesome to be challenged? And I think sometimes we have such a need to be right that can really hold us back, because I learn from my clients all the time, and I'm happy to be wrong, and I'm happy not to know something. I don't know everything, just don't tell my husband, Sam. But I'm so happy to be wrong, and I think people sometimes hold on to that need to be right so much that when they're challenged, or they're so scared to be challenged, that they don't even allow sometimes people to ask questions, because they're scared that they don't know the exact answer that they're thinking that their audience want to hear.
Yeah, totally. And I think that at the moment that you realize, because I certainly had that problem years and years ago, would be absolutely afraid that I would get a question in, you know, it could be in a whole range of topics, where now I'm extremely happy to say, I'm actually not sure about that, but you know, you could speak with some, you know, such and such, you know, authentic speaking isn't my thing. Hey, go reach out to Janelle. She knows all about that. And I'm actually don't even raise a sweat on that anymore, because it
Yeah.
actually serves our audience better not to try and make it up as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that as human beings we often do is that we judge ourselves compared to others. And I think Dr. Demartini says this beautifully. He said we often judge the worst part of ourselves to the best of the outside of someone else, and therefore we will never measure up. And I think, you know, we are all magnificent creatures, and I think that once we embrace that, and at the same time know that we don't know everything, then we can learn from others. I think, you know, if we can just say, look, there's no one better or worse than us, because sometimes people say to me, it's really interesting. People will say, oh, but if I know more than others, then I'm confident. And then I say to them, well, how do you know that? Like, how do you know that? How do you know that your audience doesn't know more than you, you know? So it shouldn't be, I feel more confident when the audience doesn't know. I perceive the audience not to know as much as me, or I don't feel confident because I perceive the audience to know more than me. Like, we all have something to offer. So it's about really understanding that and understanding how often we can be judging and putting people on a pedestal or putting them below us.
Yes, totally. So I love your take on connecting with your audience beforehand. And I don't think you're crazy for ringing everyone. I'm totally with you. I actually connect with people too. And this is going to be our cut through and our way forward as AI takes over and we start to be able to have these amazing things that are happening behind the scenes. Our cut through is going to be the fact that we're actually human and showing up in that way. And using the AI there to help us get to the point where we can connect. And I think that as time goes on, I think a lot of people are thinking that we're going to have less connection, but I think that we need to actually think about having more connection with our people. So that's a great strategy there. What about when we're actually on stage? So that's beforehand. What about when we get on stage and you feel like, you know, we were just talking about that. We've got the monkey chatter in our head thinking, oh my goodness, I can feel, you know, you've got the sitting back and the arms crossed. What is something we can do to create that connection if we haven't got it?
Yeah. Well, the important thing, and I call it getting people around the campfire. So when you're speaking, that you've got to get people, it's like if you imagine a campfire and everyone in your room, whether it be 5 people, whether it be 100, 1,000 people, they're all leaning forward and they've got their marshmallows ready and they're smiling. This is how I imagine. I'm very visual, right? So it's about how do you get, firstly, that's your goal, is to get them there, because once you get them there, my focus is always to serve and to create positive change. Now, I can't do that unless someone's got their marshmallow in the fire, because they're going to have their mask up. They're going to have their protective mechanism. And so they're not going to learn the amount that they can learn by opening themselves up and being able to lean in. So that's my job as a speaker and as a facilitator. So to get them around the campfire as soon as possible. There's lots of different techniques and every audience is different. So if people say, how long does that take? It could take 5 minutes. It could take half an hour, depending on your audience, depending on their relationship that they've had with you before. But there's lots of different techniques. So one of the techniques I use is the agreement frame, which I'm sure you know, Sam. It's about them saying yes 3 times unconsciously or consciously to you. So you can ask 3 different questions that you know they will say yes to, and you command them to say yes to you. So you've got to be the authority and give certainty to the room straight away, because if they feel you're not certain, they're not certain and they feel unsafe.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people love to be led. They're actually craving having a leader.
Yeah. And so if we're feeling a little bit uncertain, they're going to feel uncertain. It's like watching, it's like watching MasterChef. I watched MasterChef last night and it was so funny because one guy, I didn't think he was going to get in. And so I ran and hid behind this wall in my house, and my son's pissing himself laughing. And I said to him, And he goes, what are you doing, Mum? And I said, I'm feeling uncomfortable because I don't think he's going to get in and his family are going to get upset, right? But that's the type of thing that we feel in the audience. It's like if there's a speaker that is feeling nervous and we're uncomfortable, that makes us uncomfortable. And we don't want to put our marshmallow in the fire. We want to hide and go, oh, I hope that person's okay. So we need to lead, and how we lead is through our body language and through the way, our tonality of our voice. But also, so if I'm asking 3 questions and getting people to say yes to them, it's me commanding them to put their hand up, for instance. Now, I can put my hand up in a way that isn't commanding. So I could say, is everyone feeling like they want to learn today? Yeah. Like, and people sort of go, oh, do I put my hand up or... right? Yeah. Or I can stand up and I say, who here really wants to learn today? Tell me right now, and really command them to do that. Then it's like, shit, she's got this or he's got this. They've got their hand up and I'm going to put my hand up. And if they don't, it's like, come on, guys, like really commanding them to do that. And so that gives them certainty and you're leading them, and therefore they're saying yes to you as well unconsciously, and getting them around the campfire as soon as possible. And it's the best communicators, as you know, Sam, are the ones with the most flexibility. So your room is always different. And so you've got to bring whatever you need to bring. You've got to be the best flexible communicator in that room. If something doesn't work, try something else. If that doesn't work, try something else. And you've got to use the different sides of you, or the different types of personalities within you, whether it be humor, whether it be get a little bit tough, whether it be fun, whether it be seriousness, getting into the detail, really flexing so that you can get them around the campfire as quickly as possible.
Yep. So what I loved about that little piece was when you said, you know, the experienced speakers, they try different things. You know, if that didn't work, we try something else. Where I feel that when we're starting out, that we do something and it doesn't work, and in our head we think, oh my goodness, I've just failed. And that's when we start to dive down the rabbit hole that we talked about earlier. But it's actually not like that at all. It's just changing state. It's just changing ideas. It's just changing something.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that we hold on to is making mistakes. I make friggin' mistakes all the time, Sam. Like, and you know what? If I'm not making mistakes, then I'll actually challenge myself, because that means that I'm being the same and I'm playing safe. So I need to continually make mistakes, learn from them, of course, but continually make mistakes so that I'm continually stretching. So I think so many people are so scared of making those mistakes, and therefore they're not really putting themselves out there enough. And also that self-talk, which you mentioned, Sam, it's like, if that's not working, what are you saying to yourself as a speaker? Are you saying, oh shit, I'm a shit speaker right now, no one likes me? Or you're going, oh, that was interesting, that didn't work, let's try this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And totally. That's my little monkey in my head goes, with the little things.
Yeah,
and laughs at me and goes, oh, that was funny, you know? So it's about that best coach within your head going, come on, Sam, or come on, JJ, you can do it. That was funny. Try something else, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Being your own best coach.
Yeah. And that's certainly a common theme with anyone that I know that is successful, is that they're okay to fail and they actually push themselves to fail. So I love it that you said that, because I was just having that exact conversation with one of my clients who is an absolute gun at what he does too, that he said, when I'm just getting it right, I know that I'm playing safe, and that's not where I want to play. I want to be constantly pushing myself to get out there and try new things, see what sticks, see what I can do to be even better. So, you know, that's a great common theme with successful people.
Yeah, and I try and put myself in, I call them knee shaking moments, as many of those as possible. So as a learner as well, putting myself into rooms that friggin' scare the shit out of me, so that I can because that's when I know that I grow. And that's,
Yes.
so many times, Sam, and I don't know if you've experienced this, that I've been in trainings and I go into the toilet, I'm like, I get so worked up because when I'm really stretching my comfort zone, it's freaking scary, because that protectiveness, that need to be safe is going, come on, just run, run and get out of here. But you're continually pushing yourself out there, and you go, it's for the greater good. It's for the greater good. Just keep doing it. And when you do it and you go through that, it's really empowering, because that maybe you were, a half an hour ago sitting in the toilet, heavy breathing, because you're really stretching your comfort zone, but you've learned so much from it. And that's what I continually try to do all the time.
Yeah, and I remember once whenever Facebook Live started, I can't even remember how long ago it was now, someone reaching out to me and saying, oh my God, I wish I was as confident as you so I could do Facebook Live. And I'm thinking, well, you clearly weren't in my body that day, because my kneecaps were shaking. My kneecaps literally shake when I'm nervous. And I felt like I could hear back, and I could hear my voice going a little bit shaky. And I remember how I felt. I was really sweaty, and I was, having this bit of a panic about what to say next. So it isn't easy it's easy for none of us. I mean, it gets easier, but we all still get nervous, and we still all doubt ourselves, and we still all have those moments.
Yeah, well, I think the great thing is, particularly, it's about, as you know, Sam, it's about strategy. And for me, before I speak, I get so friggin' excited. Like, I've got to really calm myself down. And if you think about it, and I say this to my clients, is that when you're nervous, the feeling of nervousness is so similar to excitement. And so if we're telling ourselves we're excited, then everything shifts, right? So I'm bouncing. You ask the guys that crew with me before I speak. We like dancing. We have a bit of a dance before everyone comes in the room. We just love it. And and I'm always thinking my focus is all those amazing people and what they're going out of the room in a few hours, and what they're going to achieve and change and create, and the ripple effect. So how we see things and how we language it is so important.
Yeah, beautiful. So what is something that you feel that we haven't touched on that you really want to make sure that we finish up with people knowing about authentically presenting?
I think that one of the most important things is that we need to have a coach like yourself, Sam, that's going to stretch you, because we will naturally want to stay in our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I've practiced for years and years and years stretching my comfort zone, yet no one stretches me like a coach. And the thing is, we don't know. It's like we don't know what we don't know, and all of us. So every single human being doesn't know what we don't know. And often what we go out and learn is stuff that we know that we don't know. So
yes, exactly.
If it's like, we think, so if I don't know how to learn, if I don't know how to speak Spanish, it's like, okay, I know that I don't know how to speak Spanish, so I'll go and speak Spanish, right? But there's stuff that we don't know about ourselves, and we don't even know how to get help, or because no one's ever highlighted it to us.
Yes.
And so I had this strategy for many, many years about, that ad that I think it was a Codral ad, and it was soldier on, Codral, soldier on. I love that friggin' ad. And I lived my life like that, Sam, right? It was like if I was sick, I would drag myself out of bed, and not only drag myself out of bed, it would be like a badge of honor. It's like, I'm still working. Look at me. Do you know what I mean? And I never even thought about it until a coach said to me once. I was coaching. I was at an event that this coach was at, and I was coughing and spluttering. I could hardly talk, and I'd been like that for probably about six weeks, maybe even a couple of months. And then the following day, I went out and I drove to Melbourne. I live in Geelong. I drove to Melbourne, saw a client, came back, and then I spoke to this coach. And I said, you know, and I'm talking like this. And I said, I saw a client. And the coach said to me, sounds like you're really proud of that, right? And I said, well, I pretty am. And they said, that's really interesting, because what are you teaching your client right now? Are you teaching your client that if you're nearly on your deathbed, go out there and keep working? And I'm like, no. And it wasn't until that moment that all these patterns of behavior popped up for me. You know, when I had my son, I was in labor for 36 hours, I think, without any drugs.
Oh, God.
Like all this stuff started popping up. And it was like this light bulb moment of, oh my goodness, I've been playing these patterns of behavior. Sometimes it served me really well, but other times it actually didn't. And so now that's a watch out for me. And also the expectations that I had of other people. So often we cannot see. So when we're talking about authenticity, we can't see sometimes the masks that are popping up.
Yes.
Or the characters that we play, or the things that we're hiding until someone calls us out on it. And often our friends won't do that. It's the people that our coaches, the people we surround ourselves with. And I'm brutally honest with the people that I coach. I'm there to serve. I'm there to create change. And so I serve them with love. And sometimes what they hear is tough to hear. But it's out of love, and it's for them to create that shift. And I think surrounding yourself with people that truly are waving your flag and have the skills to be able to coach you, like yourself, Sam, you're an amazing coach, being able to coach your thinking so that it's like, okay, yeah, I hadn't seen that before. Thanks so much, Sam, for wow. And you know, Sam, when they go, oh, their face goes, oh, and it's sort of stunned because there's this new thing that they've learned about themselves. I mean, I'm nearly 50 now, and when I learn new things about myself, it's like, far out, that's crazy. How come I didn't know that about myself?
Oh, God, I feel like that's so daily for me.
Yeah, that's because we're always putting ourselves in those situations. But I love those gold nugget moments when you learn something about yourself that once you learn that and you shift it, everything can shift in your world. And so I think getting yourself a coach everyone should have a coach, and get yourself into rooms where people are thinking bigger than you are, that scare you, those knee-shaking moments.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah, I love the way you've wrapped that up. Thanks so much. JJ, as you prefer to be called, where can people find you if they love what you're talking about, which they totally will anyway?
Or not.
Or not.
I'm happy not to be loved. But those of you that do love me, have a bit of love for me. Please connect with me on Facebook. I'd love to connect with you. Also, you've got my website, janellejohnston.com.au, and there's lots of free stuff there. There's videos. I'm there to support your journey, and yeah, I'd love to be able to connect with you guys. I do some crazy stuff. I do some crazy stuff with foils in my hair and face masks on. And the intention of that is because my audience I teach them to embrace not taking themselves too seriously, and that's my clients. And so I'm doing that. I'm an advocate of that, so that they can go, hey, really, I do take myself too seriously sometimes. I mean, I've fell off a stage. I've done crazy stuff. And that wasn't intentional, by the way. But yeah. So I'm here to support you and surround and make sure that you in this beautiful community with Sam, and keep doing that, and keep being able to engage yourself in amazing people like Sam.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks so much, Janelle, for coming on the show today and joining us here in the Thought Leaders Business Lab, 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. Or if you're catching the replay on YouTube, hit the subscribe button up the top so that you don't miss an episode as they drop in. Thanks, Janelle.
Thanks, guys. See you.